And one night, my brother-in-law at the time came over to my house. It was a Saturday night, and said, "You're learning guitar and worship, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I literally have nobody to lead music tomorrow morning. Would you mind coming and playing?" I've never even sang on a microphone before. I also have huge stage fright. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I do. And so I was like, my heart dropped to my toes, and it's my brother-in-law. I guess I did feel like I didn't have an option, honestly. Oh, there's not going to be music tomorrow if I don't. And so I said, okay, I know 4 songs. And he said, great, bring them. And by the way, I have someone who plays drums who will probably play the box drum with you. And I was just like, what?
Alrighty, it is time to stop hitting snooze and awaken to a life worth being, the fun and inspiring podcast that dives deep into what makes life truly fulfilling. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, a self-proclaimed badass transformational life coach for women over 40. Join me as I explore the extraordinary journeys of ordinary people who've transformed their lives from the inside out. Tune in weekly to uncover the secrets to smashing through your perceived limits and creating a life that's not just well lived, but totally worth being. Hello, everyone. We're recording this on January 31st. I can't believe that the month of January is gone. Basically, it's been kind of a whirlwind kickoff to the new year. So we're still rocking and rolling. But thank you so much for joining me today on today's episode of A Life Worth Being. Today, I am joined by the incredibly talented Amber Lyn. She is an author, speaker, and award-winning singer-songwriter whose journey of resilience and creativity inspires audiences everywhere. Through the power of storytelling and live music, Amber helps people break free of self-doubt, recognize their worth, and take bold steps toward their dreams. Whether it's through her words or her melodies, she weaves a tapestry of perseverance that will leave you feeling empowered. So let's get ready for an inspiring conversation with a true storyteller. Welcome, Amber Lyn. I'm so glad we were finally able to connect today.
I agree, Sue. It was so good to see you, and I'm just looking forward to this time.
Yay! All right. So we're not going to have you whip out your guitar just yet. We'll might keep that as a special event, a little add-on to the podcast today, but that would be a super treat, I know, for my listeners. But I would like to just hear a little bit about your story. I know that you have a book, right, and a song that is very near and dear to you. And I'm not going to steal your thunder at all, but I would like to have you tell me a little bit about how that whole song and book came to be.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's good to start and know a little bit about how I was raised. I grew up with a single mom. My dad left when I was young, probably around 5 years old. And we spent a lot of time, me and my brother, with my single mom, just surviving. It was hard. It was hard on her. She had her limitations and she did the best she could. But when you're living in those kind of environments, there's not a lot of time or space to be seen or validated, or, have a parent that has the ability to validate certain things or gifts that you might have. And I always loved singing, but I didn't know I could sing. I didn't know I could even write music or write a song. I used to journal a lot, though. Looking back on it, I used to do that a lot. And so, yeah, I grew up not really knowing a lot about my worth or who I am or any kind of gifts or talents that I have. So it wasn't until I was like in my 20s, and at this point I had 2 young kids and was married, and I had a couple dreams. Are you a dreamer, Sue? Do you have vivid dreams ever?
That's kind of funny because sometimes I will just go through where I wake up and I'm like, well, that was a waste of time. I don't even remember anything. And then sometimes I will have these really crazy, wacky things. And I'm like, I got to write this down because I don't even believe it, but so yes and no. I mean, I'm not consistently, and sometimes my mind will be, I've found in the past, sorry. Okay. You're not going to get a short answer from me ever. So be careful.
I'm okay with that. I like details.
This is your podcast. Oh, well, it's my podcast, but you're my guest. So, but sometimes if I was starting a new job or what I was, I might have dreams specifically related to some nervousness around that or a situation, right? Like when I first
Oh,
started tending bar, I had this dream that there were like lines of people around the bed asking for drinks and what, and it was like, oh my
oh,
God.
yeah, stressful.
So
Yeah.
I do have dreams sometimes.
Yeah, I think dreams are amazing. And, the reason why we have dreams, I think it varies for each person depending on the night. And I know I've had a lot of conversations with people who are vivid dreamers also, where you literally feel like you just woke up from an experience, like
Yeah.
sometimes tears in your eyes. Sometimes I'm just angry all day because of that dream.
Wow.
But
Mhm.
this dream specifically, and there was two of them, I got to experience what it would have been like to be loved by a dad for the first time. And growing up with without a dad, I didn't really have that contrast. I didn't know any different. That's just I had a mom and that's how we lived, and I didn't know what it was like to have a dad. So to have that dream and to have that contrast, it was a huge eye opener, not just an eye opener, but like a wound opener. I realized that I had this abandonment wound that I didn't know I had. I mean, obviously I felt sad in my teen years not having a dad around and seeing some of my friends with their dads and wishing I had one. But like I didn't know that I had an open wound there, that I had been a band-aiding, so to speak, for years with different things. So anyways, I feel like after those two dreams, so vivid that band-aid was like ripped off that wound, and now I just have this gaping wound that's just exposed and it was burning, let's just put it that
Yeah.
way. So the pain, I didn't know what to do with it either. I've never experienced anything like this, and it was intense. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like I wrote to save my life, and out came this song called A Girl's First Love.
Hmm.
And basically, the song is about how dads are supposed to be a girl's first love, yet that's something many of us girls are dreaming of. And I talk about the vivid imagery that I saw in that dream. So, anyways, it was a very healing experience for me to write that song for myself. And I would sit in my bedroom, work out chords and the lyrics, and I would cry, just cry. I mean, it's just like so healing, right? Tears are the blood of the soul. You cut
Yeah.
and
True.
you bleed, and then that's how we heal, right? That's how our bodies work, and even internally too. So anyways, I never planned on sharing it with anyone. It's a very personal song, and like I said, I was grateful for it. I felt like it was a gift. However, at the time, I got invited to go to this conference, and this conference is for musicians and songwriters to learn a little bit more about all of that. And they had like a day before the entire conference a songwriting boot camp, basically meaning like you bring a song, and these judges will critique it and tell you what you could do better or what they liked about it. And these aren't just normal people judges, like they're experienced, they have hits on the radio, one is a Grammy winning artist, so it's like it's intimidating for me. It
Yeah.
was intimidating. Okay, so
It's always intimidating to put your art out there, though. I just want to, I
yes,
mean, and that it sounds like because this was so personal for you to then, you know, put it out there and like and get feedback. That's I think the hardest part. So please continue. I just want
agreed.
to
I
acknowledge how
appreciate
hard
that
that is.
validation. Yes, it's very vulnerable. It's a good point.
Yes.
I appreciate you stopped me for that. So anyways, you're supposed to bring a recording of the song. I did not have a recording, but I did have my guitar because we drove to the conference. And when it came to my time, I asked them, I said, I don't have a recording. Would it be okay if I play it live? And they said, oh, yeah, sure, go ahead. It was interesting because I could see all the other students like, why didn't I think about that?
Right.
They
Right.
brought their recording. And
Yeah.
I was even more nervous because heard all the recordings, and I, again, was doing something different. But I also felt, that little part of you, it's like the instinct, whatever you want to call it. And
Yeah.
people have different words for it, the gut, just like
Intuition.
this song deserved to be played loud, like live, rather than on a recording. Even if I just did a recording on my phone, I don't think it would have done it justice. And so my instinct, even though I was scared as heck, was like, play this song live. And so I did. I played it, and you could literally hear like a pin drop after
Wow.
I played. And I thought, crap, I've really done something wrong.
Uh-oh.
Again, this is a girl that doesn't know that she can sing, doesn't know she can write songs, doesn't have a lot of self-worth, doesn't believe in herself, right? So everything goes through that filter of like, I'm a problem. I did something wrong. Shame talking. It's just shame, right? So, anyways, it was quiet. And then all of a sudden, one of the judges stood up, and she's Southern. And so in her Southern accent, she says, y'all are copying each other. She said, this right here is authenticity. And they actually
Oh,
used my song as an example to the entire conference, because they later asked me to play in front of the whole conference, which is like over 1,000 people. I'd never even done an open mic. And they said they used it as an example of how to write music. And they ended up
wow.
giving me an award on it. So,
Sweet.
songwriting excellence. So now I guess I'm holding this award, and I'm like, I guess I'm a songwriter. Like, it has my name on it, Songwriting Excellence Award. And it was like crazy. So I was able to sort of let that in a little bit. I think it was a lot for me. Like, it was a lot to kind of soak in. It was a lot just to play the song, honestly.
Yeah.
But then they asked me to play the next night in front when everybody came in, and they gave me the award, had me play the song. I shared a little bit of the story, basically what I told you about how it coming from the dreams. And um, it was a bit of a surreal experience. I was so scared on stage. I don't remember much. I think my body just shut down. It was like, we just got to figure this out.
Right.
But the conference did record it. And so it's great. I love looking back at it on the anniversary and just like kind of remembering what was going on inside of me didn't really come across, which kind of blew my mind. And so after I played it at the conference, I knew I'd have people who've been abandoned probably come up to me and share their stories. Music is so powerful in that way. It just connects with people. It goes right through the defenses, and people just want to share their story. At least with me, they couldn't wait. And so I had a few of those. I had a few lined up to talk to me. But what I didn't expect was a line of dads who came up to me and were
Way.
moved by my song, and they were giving me side hugs and telling me how my song inspired them. And some of them were even artists that were going to be performing there and speakers. And
Wow.
they said, I do a lot of traveling, and it really kind of got me thinking, like, should I be doing this, or should I be at home more with my daughter, my kids, and how important like that job is. So, and meanwhile, I'm having loving men appropriately, healthily come up to me and care about me too. So again, another real life contrast of like, wow, there's actually like caring men that are sweet and want to be good dads to their family. I'm like, foreign concept to me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyways, that's the start of my journey with this. Yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible story. I have a lot of questions, of course, but one in particular. So I just want to get some clarification for my own. So you were married and you had your own 2 kids when you did
Yeah.
this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And when did you even pick up a guitar, and what made you said you used to journal and stuff when you were a kid. Did you
Yeah.
have a guitar when you were young, or
No.
when and why did you even pick up a guitar? Just
Yeah.
curious.
So at the time, I was pretty involved in the church, to be honest.
Okay.
I was married to, not anymore, but I was married to someone that was really involved in the church, and his brother was the pastor. So we did a lot of everything in the church. And it was a good season. It's not where I'm at now today. It's no fault if people are there and that's what they enjoy and that's their values and stuff. But
Sure.
I went to like this Bible college, and they were offering a worship class. And I thought,
Hmm.
that's interesting. And you get to learn basics on the guitar. Whatever reason, I just felt drawn to it. So I took the class and started learning. With worship music, you learn 4 to 6 chords. You can play almost any worship song, honestly.
Right?
And so that's how it started. And
Oh,
then
cool.
one night, my brother-in-law at the time came over to my house. It was a Saturday night, and said, you're learning guitar and worship, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I literally have nobody to lead music tomorrow morning. Would you mind coming and playing? I've never even sang on a microphone before. I also have huge stage fright. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I do. And so I was like, my heart dropped to my toes, and it's my brother-in-law. I guess I did feel like I didn't have an option, honestly. Oh, there's not going to be music tomorrow if I don't. And so I said, okay, I know 4 songs. And he said, great, bring him. And by the way, I have someone who plays drums who will probably play the box drum with you. And I was just like, what? I've
How
never
does
even
that
played
even
with a
work?
musician. Yeah. So, anyways, the next day I ended up playing and for the congregation, and that poor drummer, I still look back and have so much compassion on him because he was just following me. Like I cannot keep a tempo. I didn't know anything about that. I got off that stage thinking, what a train wreck, like what a mess. And I was, again, had people coming out to me who were moved and tears in their eyes, and they're like, when are you going to be leading again? That was incredible. So that's really what kind of started that. And then I had a good friend and who told me, he's like, have you ever thought about just writing your own music? And I said, yeah, I've written, a couple songs. And he goes, no, those are like worships. He doesn't like worship music. Those are worship songs. He's like, I want like real songs. Like, have you written like something from your heart, like something
Yeah.
that tells your story or something? And I was like, no, I don't think so. So it kind of got me thinking. And that's when the dreams hit. And then, yep.
Isn't that crazy? I love that
Yeah.
you admit fully to saying, yeah, I don't know what it was that drew me in, but it was your intuition. It was something that was, you listened to that, pull, right? That something is pulling me in this direction and I'm just going to go with it, because I think that
Yeah.
that's really, I know you also do coaching around all of this, so we'll talk about that later, but I think that's really important. And I think a lot of people have those, what do you want to call it, a calling, the pull, your intuition, whatever, and you just kind of go, dreams, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not me. I can't do that. I'm too scared. I'm
Yeah.
too whatever. I'm
Yeah.
too whatever.
Yep.
And just put it aside and don't do
Mhm.
that. And I love that you
Mhm.
said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm scared, whatless, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to do it. And
Bottom felt
it's
out.
funny
Yeah.
when you said you watched the recording of you doing the song live, kind of really for the first time,
Mhm.
or second time in front of an audience, um, how you're like, I don't even remember it, because it's like an out of body situation, right?
Great way to put it.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
like something else takes over and you get
Yes.
through it, and then you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I did that. I did that thing. What happened? I don't remember. Oh well.
Yeah.
Hope somebody got that on tape.
It's like an
Um,
intimate experience with that thing. It's interesting. It's different now. Like I'm definitely scared still when I do things, and especially
yeah.
on live performances and on stage, but I'm a little more be able to be present with that thing and enjoy the ride a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Mhm.
think fear is a healthy thing. Especially when you're putting yourself out there. If it's anything personal, whether it's music, art, even a podcast. When I did my first couple episodes, I was like, "Blah, blah, blah, blah." But but here's the thing. Nobody's, like you said, people are not going to judge you. Well, maybe they will, and that's great if they do, but you're going to reach someone. And if you reach one person with your message, whatever that message is at that time, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's 10 people that thought you sucked. It doesn't matter, right? And
Mhm.
clearly nobody thought you sucked. So there you have it. Um,
Or at least they didn't tell me.
right, right, for sure. But I do have another question. And I'm sure that people ask you this all the time. Have you ever met your father? I mean, have you ever been in contact with him since he left?
Yeah,
I'd
you're
love
actually
to
the
hear
first
about that.
person that's really
Uh,
asked me about that.
Well, it seems like, I mean, that's the elephant in
I
the room
know,
here,
right? Yeah. I did end up finding out my mom started getting like back child support checks, disability. And so that flagged me that he's not well. And I really just felt like a sense of I wanted to find him and find some closure. And I had looked and tried to find him before in the past. And I may have had like a P.O. box at one point, sent him something and never got anything back. But long story short, I just decided to look at Facebook again. And it was interesting, he didn't have anything on there, no profile, but I looked up his wife's name because I was able to find her through records, and she did have a profile. But get this, Sue, like no profile picture, just a name, no pictures, no posts, but one tagged photo. Somebody had tagged her in a photo. So it's them outside their house, them as in my dad and his wife, and they're
Yeah.
waving. And on the caption, it says, it was nice visiting the Cosbys. And so I click on her profile. She used to be neighbors with them.
Oh, wow.
And
Good
so
sleuthing.
I look her up, and right away I see a phone number, I see everything on her. Just like that. So I
Yeah.
called her up, and we had an interesting conversation. She had some really positive things to say about my dad, which was encouraging for me to hear. Things like, he's just so nice, he's always there to help, and we just love him so much. And so, I kind of I went into it open minded. It's like, great that she had that experience, but her guy did not ever contact his kid and abandon them. There's other parts to him that I'm not sure she knows. So, anyways, as a coach, I'm sure you know this stuff. So, anyways, I did. She ended up giving me, I think, how did I get? No, she gave me the address, and I just told my husband at the time. I said my son was a year old, first time leaving my kid is my first child, and I said, I'm gonna go. I have an address. I'm gonna go find him.
Wow.
And so I got on a plane to
Oh my God. That's
little old
yeah.
Dewey, Arizona, small town. You say you like small towns. Talk about a small town. Some of your listeners might know what I'm talking about. Like, there's not even like street signs. This is like in the dirt, like desert. It was crazy. So I ended up somehow finding her place, and I had the picture of what the outside of the house looked like. Remember, because on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was so funny though, because on the plane to Arizona, I was telling some people they're like asking, "What are you doing in Arizona? And why are you there?" And I would start sharing it, and you just see their mouths just like drop, like, "Is this an Oprah episode or something?
Right. Right. Where's the film
Are
crew?
you insane?" And they're like giving me their cards, like, "If you get into trouble, please give me a call." And I'm like, "Aren't you guys strangers too?" Like,
Right.
it was sweet though, just like the care in that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did end up finding the house. I drove up the driveway. I thought I'd knock on the door, but the screen was open, and so I'm like, knock knock, and
Who'd
he wasn't
you?
there, but his wife was, and I did
Wow.
surprise her, and she knew about me, and we spent 6 hours together. We went to Mexican
Wow.
food, we talked, and it was really good. So he was actually in California at the time doing some work on construction. But long story short, and I do tell a little bit more of the story in my book, but I came home from that trip to a voicemail from him after I got off the plane, and he wanted to talk. And so we talked that night, and it was awkward. Like, I wish I could say it was a great conversation, but like, what do you say after 20
How
something
many
years
years?
and
Right.
someone that you left? And it was interesting. So I did find out he had cirrhosis of the liver, and that disease is horrible, and it does affect your mind too. So at times I didn't really feel like I was talking to someone that was like capable of really communicating. I think he was at late stages at that time. So, but I did end up taking my family, and we went down like another couple months later, and I met him for the first time. And again, I wish this was like a great story and we had a great relationship, and then he passed away, but really it was awkward, and I did feel like I got the closure that I needed. I used to have dreams about meeting him all the time when I was little, and after I met him for the first time, the dream stopped. Like, I didn't have that yearning anymore. I felt like I got my closure and stuff. So again, yeah, I tell a little bit more about that story in my book. But yeah, I got to meet him, and so did my son and his dad.
Yeah, that is interesting, and I can I can pretty much relate to all of that in a slightly different way. But my parents were together until I was about 11 ish. And, they stay together for the good of the child. It's like, don't bother. Thank you very much. You're
Mm,
not doing me any favors. And I had the option to live with my dad or my mom. I chose my mom for whatever reason. And, she was an alcoholic, but, that was my choice. I didn't feel that close to my dad really ever because he was just very stoic and not, um, not cuddly.
yeah.
So he lived in Florida, and
Mm,
it was interesting because periodically I would call him. Now he worked for the phone company. Do you think he ever called me? No.
wow.
I'm like, dude, this is back in the day when you had, um, you know, long distance, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything to call me. Like,
Yeah.
don't you even wonder?
Right.
Um, and then I didn't hear from him for years. And it just you just feel kind of like weird. You get that weird empty sort of feeling, and it's not
Definitely.
fun,
Mm-mm.
and you're like, does this person ever think about me? Like, do you care that you have a daughter?
Right.
And fast forward about 400 years, and I think it was last year or something. I had his phone number. For some reason, my mother she didn't keep in touch with him. But she knew where he was. She knew his phone number. And I'm like, I did not get on a plane. I did not, but I'm like, I'm going to give him a call. So I gave him a call,
Mm.
and it was awkward at best.
Mhm.
And, you know, it was just awkward. Like, what do you say to somebody
So
after,
weird.
I don't know,
Really.
30 years or something?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why are you calling me? And I wanted to say,
Mm.
mhm, but I didn't. I said, just kind of curious, like, like, are you ever curious about me? Or it was just weird. It was weird. But
Wow.
at the same time, it was like, okay, we're done here and I'm
Yeah.
good. And, I don't really care
Good
what happens
closure.
to you. So I know that sounds kind of whatever, but you don't care about me. I don't care about you. So it's
Exactly.
just because your blood doesn't mean that it makes a difference.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
So,
yeah, it's interesting that, yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, you kind of had this, like, yeah, I mean, you wrote a kind of a lovely song, which I haven't heard, but I mean, but just the title of it, I never felt that way about my dad. I mean, we did fun things together. Like, he was a Shriner and he was in the mini bike patrol. You ever see those Shriners and they're like, fezzes running, my dad was 6'3" and he looked ridiculous on this tiny little mini bike, but I would go to practice with him and I would steal the mini bike and I would like take off down the thing, so stuff like
mm,
that, or we went fishing or, whatever. But,
yeah.
otherwise there was, really no love loss. So
It's not
that's
really
kind
a
of,
relationship there, it sounds like.
no, it really wasn't. So
Mhm.
it was just weird and awkward.
Yeah, I agree. I can
Okay,
totally
well, we've
relate to that.
unpacked all that stuff.
Appreciate you sharing. Well, and that was only a year ago for you. That's crazy. Like that's a lot to, yeah, work through, and
Yeah, and I
but
would just think
also
about it
clarity, right?
periodically.
Like you said,
Yeah.
like he doesn't care. Like why would I want? And my brother, we're 17 months apart. He's younger. We have same mom, same dad. He never met him, and he even told me, he's like, Amber, like why? Like why? I don't even understand why you're even making this effort. And I think for me, I just the curiosity, like you said, like that pull. I just needed to do that for myself. And I would say I did get hurt. And I would warn people that if you are pursuing like to meet a family member and they have addiction issues, just know that there's a risk there that you could get hurt again. And I would say that I did, but I felt like I needed to do that for myself, and I'm glad that I did get that closure. And again, that curiosity and that yearning, just like it's like, well, now I know, let it. And I was able to really let him go. So then when he died, it was a relief. Honestly, I know that sounds
Yeah,
horrible to say,
interesting.
but it was
No,
like there's not a relationship there; it's dead. And so to have him alive and just like, lingering was almost torture. I think in a lot of ways,
interesting.
I felt a lot of
Yeah,
relief when he finally passed away.
yeah, I'm sure it sounds like he probably was not, like you said, in the best of health.
Mm-mm.
So it was
Yep.
probably a relief and, you know, in a lot of
Sad,
ways,
but
I'm
yeah,
sure.
it's a relief.
Wow, it's funny, yeah, when we think about our relationships with our with our relatives, that we don't choose those relationships. That I prefer the relationships that I do choose, my family that I've
Mm-hmm.
chosen over the years. So okay, wow, that was a lot. So much for that was a dual therapy session there. So let's talk. I'd love to hear a little bit about. It sounds like you overcame a lot of things. Fear of, first of all, discovering that you have a talent that you didn't realize you had, and sharing that in a really beautiful way to inspire people. And tell me a little bit about how you're, like, you're a speaker and a coach. How do you put the music and the coaching and all of that together, to help other people?
Yeah, I think historically it's been kind of separate. Like, I'll share a story and share a song, and it's like at a music event, or people just want me to share about my story, and I don't even pick up a guitar. So I'm kind of just trying to figure that out, really.
Mm.
I mean, I just love connecting with people. I have music friends, and they're musicians and stuff, and they love playing on stage. They just get something out of it. Like they lose track of time up there. I'm counting down the minutes until I'm done so that I can connect with people. And so I do one-on-one coaching, and then my partner and we have an online program where we help women get out of toxic relationships too. And so sometimes I'll play songs for them, the community, and sometimes they're my clients, you know. So it's interesting. It all weaves together, and I didn't plan that. And I'm still trying to get clarity on like that. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you just being willing to, hear my story and stuff, because this is actually helping too to learn about myself. I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I think, we coach from a place that we know, right? I always say I want to be the coach that I wish I had when I was younger.
Yeah.
And we our experiences, all the things that we go through in life are just lessons, and they're not, I mean, yes, as human beings, we hang on to everything. And that's why I work with horses in my coaching practice.
Mm.
And horses don't hang on to things. I mean, yes, they can. We all store trauma and things
Mhm.
in our physical being, right? But
Mm.
for the most part, horses can go through a situation and assess it, figure out if they're in danger or not, but then they let it go.
Mm.
Usually, they let it
Mm.
go. They don't create crazy stories like we do.
Mm.
They don't, "Oh, poor me." They don't, victimize everything. So it's interesting to bring the horses into the mix. But as humans, I mean, we really do, um, we have to learn from all the stuff that we've been through, like you with your dad, me with my mom, me with my,
Mhm.
all of these things made us who we are. And if you can develop some sort of emotional intelligence around that and be able to share those stories without being, it's like they always say, uh, speak from the scar and not the wound,
Mm.
right?
Oh, I love that. To use that one.
Because if you've still got a gaping wound, you can't, it's too fresh. It's, you have to figure out, it has to
We're
heal.
gonna
It
bleed
has
on
to,
everyone around you.
yeah, right. You're just spewing everything. Um, but you have to go through that and come out on the other side, I think. So,
Yeah, I think, working through emotional pain is not fun. And I think we all try to avoid it,
yep.
all of us, right? Like nobody wants to walk through a buzzsaw. And that's what it feels like. And yet I'm so grateful I did, because it's like productive pain. And now I have such empathy, like when I'm sitting with clients who've also been, abandoned, or there's a part of their story that just resonates with that scar, like you said, and they feel that connection. They feel that I understand, and that I just want to give them a hug. Like I have that compassion, right? But I
Mhm.
I don't need that interaction, because I've already kind of done a lot of my own work. And there's times, I know, when you're with a client, things pop up for you. Like
Oh, yeah.
you have to kind of just like shut it down so you can be
Yeah.
present and with your client, but then later like process that. Like that's interesting that hit something that I think I need a little bit more time to work on. I hit a little bit of a wound there. I didn't realize. So
Yeah, and you have to be able to be aware of that and not bring your crap into somebody else's situation, because they don't need your crap, they got their own, right? But yes, it will definitely, you poke something, you're like, "Oh, shoot, where I forgot about that. Uh-oh."
So you mentioned you wanted to be the coach that, you needed. I'm wondering what kind of coach, like from your perspective, what kind of qualities does that
What
kind
kind
of
of qualities do
did
I
you
bring,
need?
or do I wish I had
Well,
back then?
well, what were the qualities that you like needed in a coach, and what you had hoped for? I don't know if you actually, were able to get that. I know some of us have had some not so great experiences with coaches too, but yeah, just
Yeah.
like what were some of those qualities you were needing?
A lot. I think, when you grow up with someone who has a substance abuse problem, you grow up really quickly. I was just sort of like, I just have to figure this stuff out on the fly, because I'm not getting a lot of adult supervision here. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Mm.
I had I had a roof over my head, but like I said, my mom was struggling with her own stuff,
Right.
and it becomes your stuff, right? And you
Mhm.
don't know what to do with it because you don't know what the hell to do as a kid, and you're like, ugh. So, I think once I had gotten to be a young adult, had I gotten some coaching or therapy earlier on, it wasn't until later in life when I was like,
Mhm.
oh, maybe a little therapy might be helpful here. Um, you know, I would have, I just didn't have the emotional intelligence. So I think that, and then and so that stuff gets cemented when you're younger, and then you bring it into your young adult life and then your adult life. And then all that stuff you just kind of like drag around. It's like every time you move, you got those boxes you didn't unpack. Right. So I think just helping people to figure out how you can sit with those things and let them come to the surface and then let them go, so that you don't carry those boxes around. And, if we didn't carry those boxes around, then people that own storage facilities would be out of business. But uh, so I think just somebody, it's always like, if you could go back and tell your younger self, what would you tell them? And I'd be like, don't do so much dumb shit, first of all. And you know think before you do something crazy, but just like it'll be okay. And
Yeah.
these are all just like you said, you sometimes you've got to walk through the buzzsaw, sometimes you've just got to like lose a limb and it'll like, oh, it'll grow back hopefully. um but it's not like losing the tail off your chameleon when you're a kid. It does grow back, but
Yeah.
um so yeah, I think just you know having something solid that like I said, and it was no fault of your parents, right? They're doing, like I heard you say, your mom was doing the best she could. Yeah, my mom was doing the best she could with the tools that she had.
Mhm.
When back in that day, there was no such thing as therapy. You just didn't talk about stuff. You just sucked it up, or you found a different way to self medicate or to do whatever.
Yeah.
So you know, um, I'm amazed I'm still here. That, but that I found a path that I could, I found ways to understand what I went through, what
Mhm.
it did for me. I won't say to me, what it did for me.
Mhm.
And made me, I'm really independent and I always have been. I take a lot of risks. I always have because I had to, right? So
Mhm.
it's
Clearly.
interesting how you can look at things in a negative light or how you can look at things in a positive light. And I think just
Yeah.
being able to put that spin on things, that it's okay to do
Yeah.
whatever. So,
I think the
once
healing
again,
allowed me
not
to
a short
see.
answer.
That was great. Appreciate you sharing. Yeah, I think it was like through the healing that my how I would see things and the events started changing. Like I tried hard to like convince myself that it was better than it actually was, but until I was got really honest about the consequences of my mom's behavior or the consequences of my dad's behavior on me, and again, it's like no judgment or anything like that, but it was a real thing, and that's
Mhm.
okay. And it shaped my life. And now I've gone through 10 years of healing. It's like I could say I'm grateful for it, and it's really
Yeah.
great that I people see that as a part of me, and I see that as part of my story, and people are inspired by it. So it's a full circle
Yeah.
there, which I didn't
Yeah,
expect. I didn't
absolutely.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good lessons out there. And I think once you realize that the only thing that you have control over is you and how you respond and how you act and how you show up. You don't have any you cannot control your mom or your dad or your spouse or your kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have no, like, you don't say something to someone because you're afraid of how they're going to react. Well, they're going to react however they're going to react, and you have no control over that.
Right. Yeah.
So you really just you learn to stay in your lane and be okay with that, and
Yeah.
not dwell on other people's stuff. So,
Hmm.
geez, all right, this is exhausting. Oh my god. No, I'm just kidding. No, this is a great
Maybe I need
conversation.
to get my guitar out so we can.
You're right, right. I know. So for those of you who are still with us, we're we're on hour 6 of our no, I'm just kidding. No, I really do think that your story, my story, we all have stories, and they're
Yeah.
going to resonate with someone. And yes, you can get on the other side of something,
Yeah.
and it may not be easy, but
Not
you
usually.
can, and you will, and you will.
Anything that's worth it, I feel like, is not easy.
Right? No, it's true. Yeah. I mean, you don't just like start something new and expect to be an expert in it, because you're not going to be. If you start a
Yeah.
new job or you start a new whatever, you're going in it with
An
a
instrument. You got callus stage you got to work through with that guitar, blisters on the fingers.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't just pick it up and you're all of a sudden, yeah, I don't know who. Think of a famous guitarist or a pianist or whatever. Or you don't
Well,
pick
yeah.
up a paintbrush and all of a sudden you're Picasso. Doesn't happen. You have to put and experiment and do and be, right? Be part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So back to you. So I would love to know what, given your situation and all the things that you've talked about, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from that whole experience? And B, what is one thing that you would share with my listeners that could be their takeaway?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. My takeaway is I'm valuable. Like I have intrinsic value. Doesn't matter what happened to me. Like it matters what happened to me, but it doesn't define who I am. And
Yeah.
that's huge. And I would say the same to your listeners. Like you are valuable. Period. You don't have to earn it. It just is. You were born with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even just embracing that 0.5% more of the time is radically will change your life. And it's a
Yeah.
process. I mean, I don't go every day thinking 100% that I'm valuable. I have days I struggle. I know, so you probably do too. It's part of the limp of what we've been through, and our unfortunately our parents. But doesn't change the fact that we are. And so
Right.
embracing that more and more is the goal. And you doing you is the best thing for everyone. So as you start putting yourself out there or picking up that paintbrush and learning how to paint because you've always wanted to paint, that's valuing yourself. And that's that percentage that moves forward. And I'm telling you, it's radically life changing.
Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right. And the other thing that I like to tell people is it's not the big huge picture, because if you look at that big huge picture, it's going to be overwhelming. And there's lots of tiny little steps, like all of your tiny little steps that led you to to that workshop and everything, right? Writing those words, putting those words on the page, picking up the guitar, all of those things, tiny little steps to get to where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to learn to celebrate those little tiny things, no matter how small they are. Right?
Agreed.
That's it. I mean, and I think we don't give ourselves enough credit, right? We don't value ourselves enough sometimes to say, "Wow, you just did that. That was amazing. That thing that you did, whatever it is," right?
Mhm.
So,
That's one of the
thank
beauties
you.
about being a coach too, huh, Sue, is like being able to celebrate with people.
Yeah.
And then they get
Yeah.
to like grow through that support and celebration. 'Cause I don't know about you, but I didn't have a lot of people to celebrate things with. So, and I have my own coach that, she celebrates with me and it's just so meaningful and like it's a need. We definitely, I
Yeah.
agree. You can celebrate for yourself. That's important too. Go
Mhm.
get those shoes like
Right?
that you've been wanting you got
Reward,
earned
yeah.
it, girl. Yeah. But also finding safe support that can like celebrate with you. I think that's really important for those of us who have been abandoned and been alone most of our life. Like, so even if it means hiring a coach or support,
Somebody to pat you on the back.
it's
Just
really it's amazing. Yeah. And it's helpful. That's what I found.
Yeah, and I don't think it's not like you're paying them to just be, tell you what they think you wanna hear. It's more like saying, "Hey, you just did this thing. Oh, you're right. I did just do that thing. You did a great job at that thing. Yeah, I did, didn't I? Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Oh, okay." It's like a reminder, right? It's like an accountability partner for sure.
Validation too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say one thing, about my mom, that no matter what I did, and I was not always the best kid. I was challenging. I mean, well, because I didn't have a lot of adult supervision, but,
I was gonna say.
um I quit high school twice and all this other stuff. And, but she would always say, you know what? You're amazing. You're smart. You're capable. I love you no matter what you do. You quit high school twice. You quit it the first time. You quit it the second time. I know you're going to land on your feet and you're going to be fine. And you're smart and you're amazing and all that. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. At the time it was just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, no, you know what? She's right. I think those things were in my subconscious, even when I was doing dumb things that, I'm proud of you. That's the other thing she used to say. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I love you and I'm proud of you. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I wrote a little bit.
Wow, the bar's really low here, Mom.
Well, there is something about those words because it's interesting you bring that up, because I wrote about a little bit about this in my book. When I started sharing my music and my story, I would have people come up to me and be like, I'm proud of you. Or if I share on social media and my songs on the radio now and people are like, I'm proud of you. I don't know what it is. Maybe because we didn't really get that growing up, but every time I choke up. It just hits that little girl in me that needed to hear that. Proud of you. Good job.
Yeah.
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 Special.
Yeah, it was good. And I think, like I said, subconsciously it when things were really tough, it was like, okay.
Kept you going.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Tuck that away. Save it for another day.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, this has been an amazing conversation,
I agree.
Amber.
We have a lot in common.
Yeah, right. I know. Who knew?
Seriously, you didn't know.
Except for I would never write a song about my father. But aside from that, maybe my mom. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. I really appreciate having you on the show. If people want to hear your music, learn more about you, what's the best way for people to find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to my website. It's amberlynspeaks.com. And my middle name, Lyn, is actually spelled with one N. So if you're doing the double N, you're not going to find me. But and if you sign up for emails through that, you'll get links sent to you to my Spotify and other social links. You could also look me up on Instagram and Facebook. But I usually just try to send people to my website. There's a lot more information. It's all in one place there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And that'll be in the show notes. So
awesome.
AmberLynSpeaks.com. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. All right, everyone. Well, that is a wrap for today's episode of A Life Worth Being. And I got to say, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for, letting us share. I felt like, I hardly gave my guest any time today, but she was a good sport about it. It's all good. And hopefully this conversation has resonated with you in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
And if it has, great. If you know somebody who might resonate with this conversation, please share it. And also, like and subscribe. We're on YouTube. I'm on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts, Apple. I appreciate you and I appreciate you being here. And thank you so much. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Life Worth Being. I hope you found it fun and inspiring. And to avoid a bad case of FOMO, please be sure to click that subscribe button. If you love what you heard today, please share it with a friend and then hop on over to your favorite podcast platform and return the love with a wonderful review and 5-star rating. It would truly mean the world to me. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and on my website. Links below in the show notes. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week for more fresh insights on awakening a life worth being.